So the first thing that we have to do is make our credit card slots. And what I've got here is just a 4.5 inch strip of fabric, and I've got an old credit card. So I'm going to come along, and I want to leave a little bit of space up here because I need that for putting into the pouch. But then I'm just going to come through and fold that fabric over, and my magic number there seems to be about 1.5 inches. So my fold over there is 1.5 inches. And then I'm going to come down and I'm going to fold that fabric again, another 1.5 inches. And I'm going to make sure that that's sitting beautifully. And then I'm going to press it. Now the way I'm doing this is I am getting, now what do I then end up with? 2 1/4. So if I set that at 2 1/4, and then fold up, and fold down at 1 1/2. And I do just love this fabric. It's a great fabric for something like this because it really does blend in, and it means I'm not trying to align stripes or anything like that. 1 2 3, so 1 2 3, and 1 2 3 4 slots there. And then what I'm going to do is take an additional piece of fabric and I'm going to fold my additional piece of fabric so that it becomes a vertical slot. And there's always that one card that you use so much more than others. That is what this piece is for. Now this is going to be the lining of our bag, remember? So I'm going to come through and stitch along this seam, and that should give us our credit card area. Okay, so now that I've got my 2 pouches here, I'm going to come through and I just want to mark up where this card fits nicely in and doesn't fall out, because what we're going to do is just place a final piece of fabric over that line, and that will then become the size that we'll be using for our zip pouch. Now I'm just doing the small 5x7 here because this only is for my store cards or credit cards. Okay, so I'm going to stitch this and then we'll be ready to put together our zip pouch. And here you can see my finished lining. So I've got room for my credit cards, and they're held nicely but also sit in easily, and I've got an extra space there, and I've doubled that up. So I've done the exact same design twice, so my lining will now hold 10 credit cards. The other thing that I've done is I've come through, and on one piece of that fabric I've folded over the lining so that it is ready to be put into place. Next thing we're going to do is cut up our fabrics for the zip pouch itself. Okay, so I'm getting my fabrics, and I'm going to use this beautiful Aboriginal print that I've got here, or First Nations print, and it's the same that I've used as the lining. So I'm doing a 5x7 pouch, so I have cut my fabrics an inch wider on each side. So mine is 7x9 fabric, and I know that that's going to be more than what I need. I've also got my zipper and my zipper pull, and I'm going to attempt to put this on, and you always know that the camera is going to make it twice as difficult. So I've come through and I've arrowed that off there, and then all I want to do is pop both sides on equally and thread them down. So my zipper is loaded, and I'm ready to put a piece of stabilizer in my hoop and get stitching. Okay, let's get stitching. So the first thing we're going to do is colorway 1, which is stitching out where the size of the pouch and where we are going to place our zipper. So I've got my zipper here, all ready to go. And I'm using the 5x7 pouch with the number 3 zipper. And then I'm going to come through and lay my zipper tab over that area. Now it's okay to come through and realign as you go along. Just make sure the zipper pull is out of the main area, as I'm about to do here. And then we'll do the second side. And now we're ready to lay down our first piece of fabric. So this fabric comes from Dragonfly Embroidery and Patchwork, the lovely Adele. And it's just a beautiful First Nations print. So this is one of our edges that have been folded over, of course. And I love that because I'm using this print, I don't need any further decoration. So now we're up to putting the back on. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to pull my hoop forward. And we're going to come through, and I'm going to take my first piece of lining fabric and lay it over that line. Now what I do want to make sure is that when I've done that, I've left enough room, or the correct amount of room I guess, for this little card slot area. Okay, once I'm happy with that, come through, take my magna pins, and I'm going to use my magna pins to hold the fabric down whilst we're stitching. So remember, we're stitching along here. The only trick to this is to not put a magnet pin in the stitching area. Okay, now we flip our design back over and stitch out colorway 5. Again, just along that same line and holding down that back fabric. Now if anything has gone wrong, this is the time that you will find out, because you can come through and see that that is all perfectly held down, just as we need it to be. Okay. So that's all safe and secure. The next part that we're going to do is actually putting on the back of our purse here. I'm just going to bring that hoop forward, allow me to do it easier. It's the problem, the longer the hoop gets, the longer our arm needs to be. And just make sure everything's smooth under there. Make sure your zipper tab is on the inside, and then take your second piece of fabric, so your backing fabric, so not the lining, the actual back of the bag, and lay it over our outline. And then we're going to stitch colorway 6 to hold all of that down. And as you can see, once you've done those little credit card slots with your iron and with your sewing machine, it is so simple then to put the pouch together. And we're nearly ready for our last colour. The last colour is putting the back lining on. Now there is a little bit of a trick to this. So let's pop that hoop out. Make sure everything's straight and lovely on the back, So we've got our credit card slots, all is beautiful, and we take our final piece of fabric. Now, learning from my mistakes, what we need to do is make sure this goes down the right way. I have done this pouch previously and I put the pockets upside down on the back and it just knocked me off, to be perfectly honest. I dislike making silly mistakes. And then all I'm going to do is come through, make sure I'm covering up all of those seams, and I'm going to take my magnet pen again, and outside of the stitching area again, hold that fabric down and return it to the hoop. And then we're ready for our final stitch out. Beautifully coming around. And our stitching is now finished, so let's come along and back to our workbench and put the final touches together. Okay, and we are now ready to pull all of this together. So the first thing I'm going to do is just pop it out of the hoop. Take the hoop away and remove the excess stabilizer. When I come to that zipper area, it's got a couple of extra stay stitches that we just have to get rid of. Okay, so this is our pouch, and the first thing that we want to do is trim away everything but where that opening is, because we need that extra fabric. And I'm going about 1/4 of an inch. A little bit more, a little bit less is fine, but you don't want to go too close and end up with the seam coming through. Once you've done that, we're going to get rid of all that excess fabric that's not part of the lining, and that just reduces our bulk. And now we're ready to turn inside out. Okay, so come through, get your corners straight, And that's looking pretty good, mainly because both of those sides are right side up. You only have to make that mistake once for it to really sit in your mind. And then I'm going to press gently where that join is, because then I'm going to use my no heat basting tape to put that join together. While that cools down slightly, I'm just going to take away our excess stabilizer along the zipper, and then I can use my tape here and just lay that tape along the seam line. Now, if you are a hand stitcher and you would prefer to do that, that is absolutely fine. I've never been a great hand stitcher. It's just not me. Okay. Press the tape down. Then you've just got to get it started where that sticky adheres to the fabric and not the backing paper. Sometimes it isn't. It works better on one end than another. There we go. So you can see you've got that tape there. I fold it in and it then sticks to that seam line that we've already folded. And just to make it really glue those seams together, then I just give it a little bit of heat. Okay, so now we are up to turning the bag right sides out. So this is our last piece of our puzzle. Bag goes right sides out. Zipper can be closed at will. But most importantly, I can come through and I can put my credit cards in here on both sides. I can put spare change and a pen. It might be a work card that I need. Anything that I need and want can be held all by this version of our You Do You zippered pouch.